Hello, everyone. We'll give it another second. All right, let's taking a quick scroll through the names here. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
The good news is I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we are happy you joined us. We hope you get something out of it. My name's Bob Meagher. I've been in sailmaking for about 20 years, but a long time ago I learned to focus on multi-hulls, or as they call them sometimes, monohulls with a training pontoon. Whenever I, or pretty much now anybody in North Sales, has a question about Hylas Yachts, though, they call this guy, Peter Grimm. I think a lot of you may know him. How many Hylas sails do you think you've sold?
Probably over 170.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
All right. And which models?
Everything from the 46, well, basically all models.
Oh, okay.
44s right through the 70.
All right, that's good. And what have you sailed on?
I think I've sailed on all those models.
All of them.
In fact, I'm sure I have.
All right. So this seems like one of those situations where it can accurately be said that Peter Grimm has forgotten more about Hylas sails than a lot of people will ever know. So we just hope he doesn't forget anytime soon. Back in the day when you first started, what were the Hylas sails like?
So they were very generic 135 and a in-mast roller furling main. And in fact, it was kind of like a charter boat sail.
What are they made of?
Dacron,
Dacron sails.
the least expensive we could buy.
Okay. Yeah, that is common on a lot of manufacturers. However, I think it's evolved in Highless, as I hope we'll demonstrate. How do they change? Tell us the process of when you got involved. What'd you see? What'd you find? What'd you do?
Well, we sailed the boats a lot. In fact, they were about 90% of them were commissioned in Fort Lauderdale. So I was able to go out on all of them and see the sails and what they looked like. And if you coupled that with the interaction I had with the buyers, because the boats became semi-custom pretty quickly, I was really able to zero in on what a better product would be for the boats and just how to make them better in general.
Okay, what'd you do?
Well, I think one of the earliest things we did was we made the low-clued 135. We moved the clue up a little bit and shortened the LP up to about 130%.
I think I can.
I think Bob has a great 2D
like
picture of this. But I think what you're seeing here is we were able to move the clue up, which gave us way better visibility under the sail. It made the sail less lead sensitive when you reefed it. And in general, it was just a better sail. The boat performed better, heeled less, and the boat speed went up.
Okay, so you made the sail smaller, but the boat speed went up. Explain that.
Well, we didn't make it that much smaller, but I think the key thing we did there was we designed it to fit the boat's rig properly. And we also designed it to fit the headstay sag and a few other things that were going on. And the other thing we did is the mainsails were originally way too full. We flattened the mains out, the roller furling mains, and they worked much better.
How long of an evolution was this? About when did some of these changes really kick in?
I think it really took us 2 years to really start saying, okay, we've really got to go in these directions to get the process and the boats just better.
All right.
And at that point, we had the 46, the 49, and the 54.
Okay, nice. And those boats still pretty active?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Talk about stasis. Some of them had them, some of them didn't, some of them added. Well, what for those initial boats in those years now, well, what do they do for you, and how did you outfit boats with those?
So the Hylas 46 didn't have a staysail. The Hylas 49 did have a staysail, and the Hylas 54s came with a staysail. So that's a very common question I get asked about, should I have a staysail or not? As the boats developed and people did more blue water sailing, having the staysail was good because it was good for heavy weather sailing. It was good for double head sail reaching. It allowed us to make the head sails maybe a little smaller, so you could sail with a double head rig. It was also a get out of jail free card. If everything was really hitting the fan, 40 knots, you could sail with the staysail only, which I thought was pretty darn helpful.
Can you retrofit any of these?
Absolutely. The boats are built with the inner forestay chain plate, and all the Selden masts come with the shiv box and the chain plate set up for the stay.
Great. All right. That kind of is a quick summary of how we got where we are. I should tell everyone, if you've got questions, we will stop at least another time or two in this conversation and look and see who has put some questions in the chat box. We're trying not to make this too structured, stay a little conversational. So by all means, please ask questions in the chat and we will get to them along the way like that.
Vertical battens now?
Vertical bat. Tell us about vertical battens.
Okay. Well, early, probably in 2004, the market really was driving. You got to have vertical battens in your roller furling mains. And we jumped in both feet. We had full length vertical battens, and they did improve the sail shape some, but they became problematic after a little bit of use because the Dacron was too stretchy on the bias, and the bias is on the diagonal of the fabric. So the sails then would jam it intermittently, which is everyone's worst nightmare, either putting them away or deploying them. And
for the record, intermittently means whenever Pete's out of the office for a couple of days, someone with a jammed vertical batten mainsail calls and I get to deal with it.
Yeah. So it was obvious that was definitely market driven. We fought it pretty hard. We tried all iterations of that. But at the end of the day, Dacron fabric isn't stable enough to use a vertical batten for any length of time.
These days, what are the Highless models that are still actively looking for sales?
Well, I think all of them are. I mean, I think in the last couple of years, I've done a 63, couple 54s, some 49s. We actually, in the last 3 weeks, I've done 2 sea trials, one on a 46, which was hull 50 La Charette.
We have something for that. I think
this gets even better. That's Ed and Michelle's jib.
Perfect. Who's this?
That's Hylas 46, number 14. And that's a Genoa. And if you look at that, you wouldn't necessarily know it's reefed down to its second reef because it drafts really forward. The leach of the sail is really straight. I mean, it's a gorgeous sail. And that's Hylas 46, number 14, Ed and Michelle Gribben's boat. And I really like that picture because, again, it just shows you can have a great reef shape, but you have to have great fabrics to do that.
What's the feature in the sail that gives it that shape?
Yeah, we have a stacked luff rope, which when you start rolling the sail up, it takes out the fullness in the middle of the sail and flattens the sail out, which is why that sail, one, is very draft forward and it is flatter as it's been reefed. You can see where the leach is in relation to the spreaders. That's actually pretty good, where it would be well overlapped. And as I said, it's got 2 reefs in it, and great looking jib. Great looking jib.
I think we've got for the main here.
Yeah, this is a mast furling main, same boat, same sea trial. And you can see here that the sail, depending on all of you've probably seen roller furling mains that look like a beach ball. This sail's flat, straight exit, rolls in and out of the mast nicely, is built to, you know, reef and have a good reef shape. At the end of the day, the development of these sails, I mean, we're probably on version 8 or 9 of the designs of in-mast roller furling mains.
All right, and you've seen every one of them.
Well, maybe not every one of them, but 80, 90%, it's a lot.
It's a lot of sales. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's pretty.
we got a comment from Martin Skelton. Says that we caught him a new main last year with no battens, no roach, and he got another half knot. Thank you.
And I want to tell you about Martin's sail. Martin's sail is an NPL Tour Ultra X, and that fabric is a Dyneema laminate. It is absolutely super rugged, and he and I went back and forth about what should he get that was really going to last a long time and furling out of his mast properly. Hence, we eliminated the vertical battens to make sure he was not going to get another jam again, but he did have a Dacron sail before, not a laminated sail.
Merrill Mant asks a question. He's got a 2002 46 with original sails. What features would you suggest? And the 135 and 140 Genoa in the Caribbean always seems too big of a sail.
That's absolutely that tremendous question, and in fact, really relates to head sail sizes. So if you think of this, the evolution of these boats, we started with the 135s, then we went to the 130s, and then more and more people were sailing around the world, sailing in the Caribbean. And when you're sailing in the Caribbean with a 135 reefed 50 or 60% of the time, all you do is get a boat that's heeled over, going slow. So we started building jibs at 115, 110, smaller head sails, so they weren't reefed in 16 to 18 knots, and they maybe had one reef in them at 22 and two reefs in them at 23, 24 knots. But the boats were much easier to sail then. They were upright, good boat speed, not lead sensitive, just made the whole boat easier to sail and enjoyable. If you fly in guests who haven't sailed with you ever or even been on a boat and they're thinking, oh, this is great, we're going to Antigua, and first day out it's blowing 21 true and you're upside down, where this really worked well. Yeah.
We've got someone asking for comments on short vertical battens. They seem to prevent the leach gutter. Is that a question of the battens, the sail fabric, or both?
I'd say it's absolutely both. When you have a Dacron sail, you're going to get some leach gutter with no battens, as you can see a little bit in Ed Michelle's mainsail here. But as soon as you put vertical battens in and you don't have a stable fabric like Dacron, the leach gutter will go away a little bit, but in 6 months, it's going to come right back and the battens are going to become not parallel to the gap in the mast. So when they roll in and out, they're going to start jamming.
Right. We've talked a lot about in-mast furling. How prevalent is in-boom furling on Hylas's?
I'd say maybe 20% of the boats have in-boom furling. So it's a great way to go.
What are the pluses and minuses compared to in-mast?
Well, I think the pluses are the sail shape. You've got basically the sail shape of a regular full batten main. You've got a full roach. Just the overall ability to have the boat point a little higher. It's not going to heel as quickly. Easy to reef because you can roll the sail down to various spots, reef the sail. If there's a disadvantage to it, you have to definitely be skilled at using it. You have to understand how to use it. You need to get education, actually probably just like all sailing.
Yeah,
you got to know how to use it. And that's one of the things we did with these sea trials over the last 20 years is we really learned how to teach people how to use a boom, for example, a roller furling boom.
Great. We've talked about heavy wind, we've talked about upwind sails. What about off-wind sails for lighter winds?
Well, early in the 2000s, it came up when I was starting to deal direct with customers as they were buying the boats, is what am I going to do, for downwind? And at that point, we were selling asymmetrical spinnakers, Gennakers. And one of the things that really helped out there was you could put up a sail that would keep the boat sailing in 6 or 7 knots when otherwise you'd have your engine on. And the other thing that I really like is you could put it up and, all day on one jibe and, get somewhere quite quickly without having the engine on. And it was something that was actually easy to use. I could teach someone how to use it easily. It went probably as high as 80 degrees apparent, and depending on the wind conditions, 140.
All right.
It was a nice thing to add to the quiver of sails you could have on the boats.
And since then, we've heard a lot more about the cruising code 0.
Okay, yeah. So that was really the next step. Is code zeros became more prevalent in cruising boats, and it was a sort of a trickle down thing from race boats. And a cruising code 0 or a code 0 is a sail that has a straight luff that's on a roller furling cable, so it's flexible. It has a roller furling, drum and swivel. The sail in the back end of it is round like a spinnaker, and it's lightweight like a spinnaker, a Gennaker. And at the end of the day, you had this sail that was really easy to control. You didn't have to use a snuffer to use it. You could use a roller furler to use it. People liked the fact you could put it up at the dock, leave it furled up, or you could take it down during a delivery, or, there was a lot of options there of how you could do it.
Okay. Do you end up needing bowsprits for that?
Some of the boat models do need bowsprits and some don't need bowsprits.
Okay. And how big of a deal is a bowsprit?
I don't think it's a big deal at all. The nice thing about the way the boats are built, most of the way the anchor chocks and anchor rollers are built would allow you to plug in an aluminum or a stainless bowsprit. It only has to be just long enough to get out in front of the pulpit.
Like
So you're
4 feet?
tops,
Okay.
even 36. And some of the manufacturers seldom make a product that's sort of a plug and play bowsprit for that kind of a thing.
Okay. Got another question about furling booms. Is reefing a furling boom to a batten so you get some outhaul tension a reality in 20+ knots?
Absolutely. And in fact, I would say this strongly, you need to know how to be able to do that. It is actually pretty simple. You're going to mark the halyard, you're going to reef the sail to that point, and then you're going to tighten up the halyard, and that'll make sure you have a great reef shape, and the batten will actually be sitting on the bottom of the mandrel. So the sail will look really nice. We were out sailing Frank Davenport's. He's had 3 Hylas 49s. We were out sailing his in about 22 knots of breeze, and we put in 2 reefs, which was the second batten down, and the sail was gorgeous. Looked absolutely great.
That's with the batten on the where on the mandrel?
On the bottom of the mandrel. So you would roll it so you don't see the batten anymore. So it's actually in the bottom of the mandrel.
Right. Another boom question. John Chase here from Valerie May.
Hi, John.
Formerly known as Blue Dog.
How you doing?
I have one of the 20% boom furling. We are planning to travel from Victoria, British Columbia to Alaska and eventually out to Hawaii and beyond. Any advice on sail material in different temperatures?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. One, in a roller furling boom, you've got to have a really stable fabric. Any laminated fabric that's got a mylar film in it is going to be affected by, in particular, heat. So you want to have a fabric that doesn't rely on mylar for stability. So for example, North Sail's 3DI technology, which is all fiber and resin, no mylar, can't delaminate, it's going to be stable, whether it's in cold or warm weather. So the stability of the fabric is very important.
Yeah. Someone else wants to know, based on your experience with Hydronet, how long would you expect a Hydronet sail to last?
You know, Hydronet is this bomb-proof fabric because it's made using a Dyneema yarn. And the Dyneema yarn is really rugged. So if you looked at a snapshot of the fabric in a fabric test, you would think, wow, this is bionic. It's better than carbon fiber. It's, you know, takes flex fatigue really well. A couple things you should know about the big picture of Hydronet is that you can't weave Hydronet very tightly because Dyneema yarns are susceptible to heat. So you would normally weave Dacron a little over 200, Hydronet be woven or heat set at around 140, because otherwise the yarn will melt.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So what happens is, to get a tight weave, you need to heat set it. And if you can't get the fibers to shrink, you have to add resin to it or the fabric's linky. So at the end of the day, Hydronet stretches actually quite a bit, in my opinion, and it makes a rugged sail that becomes pretty full in a lot of cases pretty quickly.
All right. What does that mean in a furling spar?
Okay, so in a furling spar, the sail's going to get full, and at some point, it's going to not furl in and out of the mast easily, and it's going to lose its shape. And in a furling boom, what'll happen there is then the sail won't furl properly on the boom. You're going to find out it's all of a sudden has its own personality and doesn't want to furl the way you want it to furl.
Like a bad pet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today there are 3 new Highless models. What do they come with now, and how are any of them different than in the past?
Well, it'd be great if you could pull up the images of the 48, the 57. And so let's have a look at the 48 here. It's a Bill Dixon design, really cool boat. So he designed the boat with a pretty big overlapping jib, but he's got this still the clue up in the air. Boat has a large self-tacking roller furling staysail, which I really like because, you know, again, you can just tack, no muss, no fuss. The boat has a very big in-mast roller furling main with battens. That diagram shows full-length vertical battens. That's just a rendering. But that boat, really powerful boat, and you could add a code 0 to it or a Gennaker. Great boat, really nice cruising boat. Let's have a look at the 57. So this is also a Bill Dixon boat. This is a really exciting, really cool boat. You'll notice it's got 2 roller furlers very close together up on the bow. You've got the head stay forward.
Sorry, I'm getting notes here that you can't see the boat. Sorry about that. Let me drop that in there. Let's rewind a little for my omission. Go back to the 48. There it is. You were talking about the self-tacking staysail on the 48.
So this is like take 2?
Take 2, baby.
Take 2, okay.
Let's see if we can do it again.
Anyways, if you look at the drawing there, you can see the clue of the overlapping jib is up pretty high, so you can see underneath of it, and it'll reef nicely. The boat, if you look at it, has a large self-tacking roller furling staysail. I really like that because it's just one less thing to do when you are tacking in a windy situation, or if you're sailing with the double head rig. The boat has a pretty big main, which is nice, very powerful. And we build them with the shorter vertical battens as opposed to the long ones on in the drawing there. So now we'll have a better look at the 57 maybe here.
We'll get it zoomed. There we go.
Okay, so this is a Bill Dixon design also. So I'll start from the bow. It does have a nice bowsprit, which allows you to have a code 0 or a Gennaker. The first stay that you see the furler on is where the large roller furling Genoa goes. And then the second stay is the Solent stay, which is cool. That's a furling self-tacking jib. What's really nice about that is that you can switch gears. So for example, in 12 knots, if you're going reaching, you can have the Genoa out and you're sailing along really nicely. And then the breeze comes up, and so you put the Genoa away, you deploy the Solent jib, and now you're going upwind, much more upright and stable.
We can come back to this. I think we have a better drawing here of the 57 that shows that sail. Let me zoom in a little. Yeah, that's better. You can see it on the track there.
These are the drawings that they don't let me see. I just sell the stuff. I'm not an engineer. I've told many of you I'm coming back as an engineer in my next life, not a salesman. But this is a great drawing, and really shows you how the boat was designed to be set up. You can see the self-tacking Solent, and if you slide over, Bob, you can see the clue of the Genoa. And then if you look up a little bit, you can see the clue of what's probably drawn in as the Gennaker on that sail plan.
All right, how about the 60?
The 60's German Freres design. It's a really neat boat. I've actually sailed it quite a bit. The boat has a pretty long bowsprit, which is nice for both the Code Zero and the Gennaker. The jib is 105% overlap sail, so it's not a Genoa. The mainsail is a very, very large mainsail. So the design philosophy here is to have a bigger main, smaller jib, easier to handle the headsail. You got a lot of power in the main. Now the sail plan also has a nice self-tacking staysail, again, a larger sail than what would have been earlier on the Highlesses.
I think we've got another image of that as well here on the sail schedule. Oh, like that. Oh, there's a jib. Sorry. There it is.
Yeah, so you can see that the staysail is a pretty high aspect sail, but you can fly the jib and the staysail together, double head rig reaching. The boat's a knot faster, easy with the staysail deployed. I mean, that boat's pretty speedy for sure.
Nice. What kind of fabrics are on these sails?
So the boats now come with NPL Tour XI fabrics, which is a blend between an aramid fiber and a polyester fiber. And it's a laminate, it's very robust. We use vertical battens in the mains. So at the end of the day, we've got those on the 48, the 57, and the 60.
This, I think, is some of the first pictures of the 57.
Yeah, this is a really cool picture.
Sharing it, thank you.
Hopefully everybody's seeing this. I love this. This was taken on San Francisco Bay. I'm guessing it's about 20, probably 90-degree reaching. That's the large head sail deployed and the full main. Boat's just flying along upright. It's really shows the ability of the boat to carry some sail area. Now we'll go to the next picture here. Now this I like because it really shows the Solent jib and the full main, the boat in the same breeze, but now they're going upwind. And so you've got this double weapon system. You roll up the Genoa, roll out the Solent jib. It's a self-tacking jib. So literally the helmsman can tack the boat. There's nothing that he would have to do other than, change course to get over tack to tack. And you can also see the vertical battens in the main. You can see just the geometry of these sails and how they look on these more modern boats.
Great. I want to ask you some questions about what's next, but we have some other questions first. Rude Bozeman asks, can you comment on the size of the Hylas 54 staysail? We on Blue Pearl hardly ever use it because of its small size on the 54.
I've read some of your comments on Owners Association and the Facebook site, and clearly you've sailed a lot of miles with your boat, and clearly have been in situations where, you know, some people might have had the staysail only and you've reefed your Genoa. I think there are times where I would say, okay, you could go double head rig reaching and get some more speed out of the boat. I do realize that the staysail on the Hylas 54 is not as big as, say, the staysail percentage on the Hylas, say, 57. But my experience has been when the staysail's deployed, it will add speed to the boat, double head rig reaching. Now, my experience doing sea trials off Fort Lauderdale, I can remember one in particular, it was blowing about 27 or 28 knots. And we deployed the staysail and the mainsail with 2 reefs. And we couldn't sail necessarily 35 degrees apparent to the wind. But what we could do is sail about 40, 45, going easily through the waves, probably 12 degrees worth of heel. Real, if you were, the boat was depowered at that point, which I liked, and I think the client liked because they were new to the sport. So I think you're going to get different opinions on that. But at the end of the day, I think having a staysail is a nice thing to have as a go-to sail, especially when you're doing blue water sailing.
Martin Skelton's got another question. If we got a new smaller headsail, which would be perfect for Caribbean sailing, would we regret it once we got to the Med or the Pacific?
Great question. If for the kind of sailing you're doing, Martin, and the discussions we've had, I would say we would build you a 120 out of the same fabric we built the mainsail out of, which is the Ultra XI fabric. And the 120 would reef down really nicely. But also in the Med, when it's, say, blowing 9 knots, 10 knots, you're still going to be sailing really nicely. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to have some sort of downwind sail in the Med if you're going to sail on the days that it's 6 knots. And then, of course, in the afternoon, the Mistral blows in and it's blowing 30. So
we've talked about Code Zero and we've talked about a G2, but North has a new design coming out. Describe that for us.
Yeah, so now we have a Helix Gennaker. And Helix is a proprietary product to North. It has a very small luff cable in it with a structured luff. So it's designed where it shares the luff load between the small cable and the structure of the luff of the sail. And what it allows you to do is pull the luff tight and sail the angles of the Code Zero, and allows you to ease the halyard off and then project the luff to windward and sail more of the downwind angles. But it's really cool too, because you don't have to put the kind of load you have to put on a Code Zero stay to get the stay to go tight, because of the shared structured luff between the small cable and the structured luff. So this is these things always confuse me. This shows you the sweet spots for the G0, the G1, the G2, and the Helix Gennaker G1. So a G0 is more the closer reaching sail. The G1 is our all-purpose sail. We have a great picture, which we'll show you, of Alan Armstrong's G1 flying along here. There it is. It's blowing about 16 knots, about, I don't know, 120 apparent, maybe 110. Boat's just flying along. Really cool boat. 56 number 15. Great boat.
So if that sail's so great, what's the Helix Gennaker going to do for us?
Well, the Helix Gennaker is going to roll up. So that sail that he has a dowsing sock. And the Gennaker is like the best of both worlds. So it gives you the flexibility of the Code Zero, and also gives you the deeper angles of a Gennaker. So it's nice. It's like a 2-in-1 sail.
Nice, excellent. What else do we have new that's coming out for Hylas's?
Well, I think David Carafa and Peggy Huang's Hylas 57 hull number 1, I'll get it right. Vanishing Point, which I think is a cool name, always have. That boat is built fully modern, optimized in all aspects. And in the sail inventory, we've built 3DI, in-mast mainsail with vertical battens, roller furling Genoa 3DI, and a self-tacking Solent, as well as we built a G1 with a really cool inlay that you'll get to see when we go sailing on it.
Excellent. So before I learned, I thought 3DI was just like another laminated sail. You touched on it before, but summarize that again.
Okay, so a 3DI sail is filaments and resin. So it's 70% filament, 30% resin. There is no mylar in it, so it can't delaminate. It's a chemical bond, and it's a composite structure, ultimately built on a mold vacuum bag. So at the end of the day, the sail is going to hold its shape over a much longer period of its life, and heat has no effect on it. Here's what happens with a laminate, is that you're taking basically the equivalent of hot glue, you're putting it together, and the sail sets up, and then the next time over its life cycle, it will heat up, and ultimately you'll get delamination before, as the sail ages.
Okay. As the sail age in the first year of ownership, what will you do for sail owners?
Oh, that's a great question, because I always forget to tell everybody.
Softball.
Anyways, the New North sails come with a free 1-year sail checkup. And that does mean if you stabbed a spreader through it or chafed your sun cover, we are going to fix it for you at no charge to you. And a great example is we have a client up in New Jersey who had his sails picked up recently.
What boat?
It's Christoph Spass, Hylas 49, hull number 49, Delphina. How about that? And the sails are in Annapolis getting their check over, and they'll be delivered to the boat when the boat gets launched in the spring.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're reaching the end here and want to solicit more questions. We got one question. Is the 3DI process proprietary to North?
It absolutely is. It's next generation technology. And in fact, I've been doing this all my life, and there's nothing even close to it. It's the only product out there that has no mylar film in it. It physically can't delaminate. Over the life of the sail, if 10 was the shape of it when it was brand new, it's not going to be below a 9 over the entire life of it. So it's incredible. And these are not lightweight products, meaning for cruisers. They're very robust and built to sail around the world.
And next question is, how does the cost compare?
The cost is more. If you actually, I'm going to sound like a life insurance salesman here. If you took the cost of the sail up and then divide by the number of years you used it, the cost of ownership is about the same as a Dacron sail.
I understand lithium batteries cost more, but a lot of people think the lifespan's worth it.
That's true. That's absolutely true. I think in a lot of these boats nowadays, to get the most out of them, you can get better sails. And nothing makes a boat go better than brand new sails. I mean,
well, to be fair,
really,
and a clean bottom helps too.
Yeah, clean bottom, feathering prop. So it really, the sail technology is just there. And it's pretty exciting stuff when you consider you can have a sail that looks like a race sail shape-wise for a cruising boat. It's going to do everything better than what, say, a Dacron sail does right now.
I don't see more questions, but we'll wait another minute here. We'll put up some contact information here. Let me show you who we are again one more time. If you've got more questions than that you think of later, Peter can be reached like that. I can be reached there with our phone numbers as well. We will put this back up in a minute. I'm limited in that when I'm sharing the screen, I can't see questions in chat. So I'm going to jump out of this for a second. We will come back to it if you're looking for a password like that. Okay, we've got a question from Merrill Mann. Do you need to measure a Hylas 46 for a new set of sales, or do you have all the info required?
Two things there. If you told me your hull number, I may already have all the dimensions, and we would have built the sails, so I would have the information. If you have an earlier hull number, depending on what boats were built in that same era, I probably have the information as well. We try and check things, but I will say this, with the amount of information we have on Hylas's, there's pretty much not a boat I couldn't build the sails with without, having to remeasure it.
We've got another question on the 54. The issue with the staysail is that it's too big of a gear change from a reef Genoa to a staysail alone. We found a combo of as little as 40% of the Genoa and the staysail used together as fast and flat.
I bet you that's Rich Hoyer.
No, Brian Regan.
Okay, I think that's his partner. At any rate, on Rover. Anyways, yeah, great owners. They're excellent sailors. I was talking to Rich about this the other day, and he's had several situations where he's found that he had the staysail out and he had a postage stamp of the jib out together, and the boat was more balanced, more upright, wasn't pounding, and they really liked that setup. They felt the center of effort was a little lower. And I had asked Rich direct question, if you were using the staysail only in 35, 40 knots, and he still felt that you needed a little bit of balance there. So, and maybe Rude, you could weigh in on that too. But at the end of the day, that's what they're doing, and they're sharp guys. So
great. Ted Lockwood's got a question on a Hylas 49, hull number 44. What type of chute would you recommend?
Let's see. Well, just depends on where your threshold is for ease of use, how fit you are, what if you want to sit in the cockpit and do stuff. So, I mean, for a 44, I think a G1 would be a really nice sail. Best sail would be a Helix Gennaker that you could furl. That way you have the ability of the pointing of the code 0, which, we didn't talk about the wind angles, but that sail is going to go up to 65 or 70 apparent, and it's going to go down as deep as, say, 140. So that might be a consideration for you, for sure. One thing I think I should point out here is that I try and develop a playbook that's a little more universal to the various boats. And I won't always tell you necessarily the right thing. I'll just tell you what I think you could be doing. And the cool thing about that is you can have a reference, and you just say, that was the benchmark. That's where we started. This worked for us as we further sailed, as demonstrated by some of the comments here. And I think the input that I've gotten from all of you over the years has been just incredible. And it's helped me help all the people with the boats. And it's very synergistic for sure. The sum total is greater than the parts.
Question from Wayne Lloyd. Are the North Sails Hylas specific lessons learned on the design and sail enhancements? Are they consistent globally or specifically in the UK? Or is it best to engage with you guys in the US?
No, they're consistent globally. One of the really cool things about North Sails is that it's a wholly owned company. We're not a bunch of individual business warriors. So when someone is going to buy a Hylas sail, the designers look in the references of the sails we've built, and many times they get a hold of me, or the salesman gets a hold of me, and we definitely collaborate on sales for these boats. So there's definitely, if you got a sail built in the UK or a sail built or sold from another loft around the world, if the design brief was the same, usage, they would be the same sail.
I'm going to go back as in as I said, and put contact information back up on the screen while we're sitting here. Trying to think now of things we didn't cover. I can't look in the chat again, but as soon as it'll pop back up, I imagine we can get there. Okay, let's
I
take.
think it's key to remember that all of you have specific requirements and specific places you're sailing and just all the different things you're doing. And if we can zero in on those things, I think we can get the right sail inventory for your expectations.
We've got a question from Wayne Warrington. Hi, I'm currently building Hylas 48 number 3. Congratulations.
Nice.
Which I plan to circumnavigate before coming back home to Hawaii. Any specific recommendations?
Well, I think we should sit down and really talk about your previous sailing experience, what you're going to do. You know, you're talking about going circumnavigation, going to Hawaii. How much, you know, coastal sailing are you going to do before you take off? So I would have to really look at that a little more in depth to directly answer the question.
Rude asks again, a tongue-in-cheek question. Will a 3DI sail last 40,000 miles?
Absolutely. In fact, Rude, that's a great question. Okay, so all the Volvo boats, they put a restriction on the number of sails you could build. And when they did that, you can only build 2 mains to go around the world. Well, what we found, our clients only used 1 main to go around the world. And then they were using that same main to go do more practice and further sailing. So if Volvo sailing and single-handed sailing the Amoca 60s, they beat the heck out of those sails. So absolutely, you could get 40,000 miles, no question, out of the sails.
All right, we're approaching an hour and questions are winding down. We'll give it another second, but want to say thank you very much all for time. We hope you learned something. And we hope that if you've got more questions you think of later or stuff that there's anything you'd like to know, please give either one of us an email or a call. You'll find we're reasonably responsive. So thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your support over the last 20 years, and it's just such a fun time to work with such great people.
Thanks a lot.